Hello and welcome to the fixed camera system tutorial. Over this I'm going to show a brief introductory on how the system works and how to use the system within your game. First, it's actually composed of several different components. You have the camera manager, which is actually the one that handles the camera stack. Then you have the actual movement component, which we'll get into after. And then you actually have the actor itself, which is a stack camera. The other parts are pieces that are related to the tools themselves to actually make it easier to use inside of your editor. So in our example here, all we have to do is have a camera manager, which is the one right here. You just need one camera manager. You don't need multiple. It would actually cause conflicts. You should treat this as a singleton, but for all intents and purposes, since it's a blueprint, we have it just as an actor. And then from there, you can just put your stack cameras in and put them wherever you want for the fixed camera position. Once you do that, if you want to actually change and angle the position of a camera, so right now we have this one and this one, all you have to do is click the camera you want. Notice the box here, which is the overlap box, and then just simply click the button at the top and cam match point of view. And now from what you can see here, the actual camera is now in the position that we are in. The debug is on, which is what those spheres are and what the lines are showing for the raycast. And you can see here the overlap box did not change at all. So all it did was actually adjust the position of the components and not the actual actor itself. And that is pretty much it. The way that it works is just as soon as your character, the player character, overlaps with the camera, it will actually just register it in the camera stack and switch to it. The camera stack is set up in a way where it will manage multiple cameras if they have multiple overlaps, but it will take the one that is preceding. And yeah, that's it. And as you can see, when we hit play, the camera is on. And those lines there are for the relative movement that we're just about to go over. And see, I move over to one camera, it switches over. If I move back over to that one, bam, nice and updated. It has several different pieces tied to it. It has the spline and it has the follow components. So if you wanted to actually change the settings of any individual camera, you would just go over to it and in the details section here, look into the config here. The config changes the overlap box. So like that one right there, you can change and adjust the size of your overlap box as you see fit. If you don't want it to actually follow the player, as in like look at them, you can just uncheck this box. You can also change its look speed and you can change the follow speed. The follow speed is based off of the actual spline of the camera. So right here we have a spline component. If I wanted to move this, I can actually adjust how it follows the player. It will follow along the player based on the player's closest point on that spline, and then it'll still keep the distance based off the boom, which is that red line that you see there. So with this camera, it's that red line there, and it'll follow along the player as they move along it. So see right there, it just started to move. And it continues to follow the player up to the end of where they're at in the spline. So if I move back, it'll actually move back as well. Now, the relative component that I mentioned, that is what those lines are for. So essentially, it's already tied into a character, and what it does is every time the camera is registered, it looks at the player, figures out where up, down, left, and right are in relation to the camera that is active, and calculates them. That is a debug on the player character right there that's allowing it to trace those lines to show how it's thinking the directions are. But you can disable that on the character itself. Now you can actually do this on your own character if you would like. My recommendation would be to either create a child class of the third person cam relative character, or if you really want to create your own, you would just need to add your player relative camera component and then use the code right here for putting it on your character. We just pretty much replace the input action move and take that component's calculations of what direction is right and what direction is forward and multiply it by the action value to get the correct position. Every time the player stops moving, that's when we call and update the relative direction. The intent of that is to allow, so when you make a change to the camera, it will actually keep the player moving in the direction they were originally walking towards. So in that specific one, I'm right here and see the red, I'm going to move to the right. It pushes me towards it. And when I go to change into the new camera, it'll continue pushing me forward while I'm holding it, as long as I'm holding it down. See? Even though it was towards the green then at that point. If you do want to actually use it on your own, as mentioned, you just have to copy over this code and make sure your system has that specific component to use those values. The one important part, though, is that inside of the camera managers and in the stack camera itself, there are these casts to cast to the specific character type. That's why I recommend making a child of this class instead. If you need to do your own, you just need to go into these locations, find where the casts are, and replace them with the cast to your correct character. That is pretty much it. If you have any questions, there's contact information for it, and happy coding.